Well, good morning and welcome to a Lakewatch that I'm delighted I can bring you because we haven't blown up the fucking planet yet. This one is going to be a bit of a Tom Waits one, I think. I feel a rant coming on. And Tom Waits said, I like beautiful melodies telling me terrible things. Well, here's a beautiful lake. Well, I'm going to talk about terrible things. And we're going to talk a little bit about propaganda in the internet age. So, you remember the Q8 story of babies being thrown out of incubators. I remember it. Fuck me, I was angry. Oh, so angry. Who does that? Monsters. Monsters do that. Now, that was proven slowly to be completely made up. And that the girl who was allowed, and I say allowed and mean it, to give evidence at the UN of having witnessed this, turned out to be from a high-cell Q80 family. And it was completely fictitious. It hadn't happened. And I think that the people who allowed her to give that testimony knew that. They knew that it was made up. They knew who she was. How could they not? And yet they wheeled her out to get the justification for a war that they wanted. And there were several other stories. The thing is, it took a while for the truth to be known. The weapons of mass destruction, some people still believe that Saddam had them, and he didn't. And, you know, people who spoke up, some of them ended up dead. The British doctor who ended up suspiciously suiciding himself with 2 shots to the head, I think it was. You know, because after you shot yourself in the head once and you don't die, you're obviously in a real fit condition to do it again. That's how it happens. Anyway, whether I don't know the exact circumstances of his death, but it, you know, didn't sound unreasonable when I said it, did it? You weren't shocked. So, the thing is that propaganda in those days took a while to be taken down, you know, because the internet sounded like this. You know, but now it's in our pockets. We can pull out the internet anywhere, in a taxi and on a toilet. Don't say you don't. I know you do. So, and the propaganda that's coming out of Ukraine is being taken down within hours, as long as you don't restrict your news diet to the mainstream media. There are very credible sources outside of that cartel who are doing the hard investigations and in a bipartisan way, not supporting Russia or Ukraine. They're debunking both sides' propaganda, and it's typically within hours. And that's a challenge for propaganda. And yet we're seeing almost the maternity hospital being bombed. I don't know if it's true or not now. You know, it's very much along the lines of babies out of incubators, don't you think? It's shit if it happened. But I saw one debunking that said that the main picture of the pregnant lady walking down the steps, she's an influencer. She does makeup tips on Instagram. And there's also no way that she could have been there at the time when the bombing happened. And that's a tragedy, because it might have happened, right? That may well have happened. But I'm suspicious, and with good reason to be suspicious, that it might not. And that, you know, very soon we'll find out that it was a babies in incubators story. The First World War had a story that got thousands to join up, particularly in the PALS regiments. It's about the crucifixion of a Canadian soldier by the First World War German army. They crucified him on a barn door. Turned out to be completely false, but it's seen in the world of propaganda as a classic of its era. It's got that emotional pull that stops people thinking critically, and it just overwhelms them with feelings of disgust, and then that's manipulated very quickly into hatred, and that's how it's working. And maybe it's because of the speed at which these narratives are being challenged now because of the net, that we're rightfully becoming more suspicious. Has propaganda stopped working? Maybe. I think in another era we'd already be doing insane things there. But I don't feel a public will, except for idiots who are saying, we just take some F-16s and bomb their convoys, America, fuck yeah. But they'll do that anyway because they're dicks. These people exist, but they're a minority. So, yeah, I think the Chinese curse of may you live in interesting times pervades once more, but it feels like it's been that for a few years, and yet it's too scary to be just viewed as interesting. It's a real fucking worry, and I just hope that more people broaden where they're getting their news from. I don't like news that I agree with all the time. I don't like opinions that I agree with all the time. I like my news and opinion to put a stone in my shoe, to challenge what the perceived wisdom is, and that's a reflection of my character, I guess. I've always been a bit irritating like that, as my friends will no doubt be nodding along with. Yes, Trev. But it's not a pose with me, it's just how my brain's wired. I have to really get into something to work out whether it's right or not. And that means I have to challenge it. Everyone who has a profile, particularly in America, who says anything questioning about the narratives that are being pushed is immediately accused of being a communist or pro-Putin. And that's a very telling sign. As soon as I hear somebody being accused of that, I am immediately more interested in what they're actually saying. And then when I investigate that further, I find that what they're saying is typically the truth. None of them are pro-Putin. None of them are pro-communism. As if Putin's a communist, So, anyway, yeah, I did get on a rant. Thanks for indulging me. I love you all, and love is very important right now. Love for everybody. Love for the Ukrainian people, but also love for regular Russian people, because they don't fucking want this. They don't. They have no choice, and they're being fed propaganda as well. And it's their sons and daughters that are being sent out to die. And that's shit. So be very suspicious about anybody who's switching the narrative of the blame from Putin and his leadership to the Russian people. The Russian people are sound as a pound. They've been fucked over for decades. It ain't them. As that old Chilean guy told me a long time ago, who'd escaped Pinochet's government in Chile. He said to me, Trevor, you must remember, the people in the government are never the same thing. And they're not. So don't hate Russians. Okay? That's it. Peace and love.